Hello, all again, and welcome back to the Omega Republic Staff Asks Staff. This week's contestant, of course, is our beloved owner and founder, DJ Ark. Say hello, Ark.
Hello. Please hold your applause until after the show.
Well, depends on who's applauding, I guess. We have a few questions submitted, of course. Once again, I'll spin the wheel, and whoever it lands on, will do their question. Some people have submitted 2 questions, and we do have at least one from one individual. So we'll get right into it. First up today is Cosmix. Cosmix' first question is, if you're feeling down, what's the simplest thing somebody can do for you to cheer you up?
If I am feeling down, the most simple thing that you could go ahead and do, ironically, is send me photos of baby animals. Most cheerful thing.
Really?
Straightforward. Yep.
Okay. Puppies, kittens, foals, calves, etc.
I mean, heck, you could go ahead and show me a picture of a baby alligator and I'd be happy. I don't know, mammalian babies are kinda weird when they do not have any hair. They're just skinless looking blobs.
Okay, so you don't approve of baby naked mole rats then?
Naked anything, naked mole rats, naked cats, naked dogs, whatever. If they don't have any fur, I'm sorry. I think that's where I pretty much have the exception at, is anything that doesn't have fur, mammalian-wise. Ironically, I do like baby, gators. Even though they don't have anything per se. But they're cute already. With a small size, at least.
That answers that question. That one, then. You've clearly made your choice. Aha! Firecracker asks, you get to pick one of the 2. Become your perfect self, never feel tired, or become a perfect master of any 2 skills. If so, which do you pick and why?
Well, if I were to become the perfect self, then I wouldn't necessarily need to have the perfect set of 2 skills. However, if I was never tired, I could just focus on perfecting whatever. So I'd say never tired.
So never feel tired, huh?
Yep, pretty much. Then you wouldn't have to ever sleep, and then you reduce your amount of time of necessarily doing anything.
But never feel tired can also be insomnia without side effects, I guess. I mean, we all have insomnia at one point or another.
Well, fun fact, I do have actually a unique gene. It enables me to go ahead and sleep at least a minimal of 4 hours and still be refreshed.
Lucky. That answers that one then. Okay. You have your choice between Cosmic, Firecracker, Luna, myself, or Soul.
You know, Soul sounds like the individual that's more down to earth, so I'm going to go with her.
Alright. And you are correct. Of all the questions, hers is definitely the most sensible. So, Soul asks, how you came to the furry fandom?
Oh, jeez. Wow, you're going to go down memory lane on that one.
Said it was sensible. I didn't say it was going to be easy.
Well, like I said, it's fairly simple. It's just like, wow, nostalgia. Okay, nobody has mentioned much of any of that, nor did I really need to give it much thought. since I became a fur. First time when I became a fur was probably sometime after high school. First time when I got exposed to it, started having an interest in it, was during my sophomore year. An individual that I actually recall, he himself actually had the wolf tail, wolf ears, whatnot. Was a bit curious of this individual. Now, I was pretty familiar with furries themselves. I just never really delved much into it until after this individual. When I started noticing on different types of sites that he would be going on during the lunch breaks. So I would actually go ahead, follow these sites. Yes, I was a bit of a stalker, still am.
Nothing wrong with that, depending on how far you take it.
So I go ahead and notice some of these sites that he would go on during the library on his lunch breaks, and of course I'd go ahead and follow through with them. These were like these old-fashioned AOL types of places that you would go ahead and go on to. And eventually I started doing types of role plays, exposure on that, basically a whole bunch of geek culture stuff. Ultimately, how I started becoming more and more affiliated with it until eventually I just said, alright, this is my community.
You just started at the top of the hill, and before you knew it, you was rolling at full speed down the hill.
Well, yeah, like I said, I was familiar with it at the time, even before my high school years, but during my high school sophomore, I got more into it after this individual, became more curious with him. And once I became more curious and delved further, apparently I met the Abyss.
Nice, so you've just kind of been part of it ever since then. Alright. Cool. Firecracker's second question is, what possessed you to take on this cast of misfits? Meaning us, of course.
Well, I guess you could go ahead and say there are 3 different types. The first time, when Firecracker was around, just randomly grabbing a bunch of people that I thought I would connect with. Second time around was a little bit more familiarity. These are the second generations, is what I would go ahead and say. Second generation individuals, I started socializing in different types of social media sites, I guess you could say. Messing around a bit down over there, and of course I started getting familiar with individuals before recruiting them. This would be... Go ahead.
And of all of us here, Firecracker has seniority, correct?
Oh, definitely. He's the oldest. That's been around. Yeah, he's the oldest that's been around since the beginning. You's probably the second, I guess you could say, close followed by him.
Wasn't Delta here before me?
No, Delta came after.
Really?
Yeah. Incidentally, I actually got him during the time when he was in a relationship with somebody. I forgot what his name was, but I didn't really like the boyfriend. I was trying to isolate Delta from him. Which, of course, lo and behold, I was able to do that because he broke up with boyfriend.
Technically, Seaward Skies has been here longer than I have, but they have grown distant, unfortunately.
Yeah. There are a few individuals in particular that I have came and left.
And of course, I mean, you were part of a different podcast group before this one.
Well, the Omega Republic itself prior to becoming a furry community, was actually more involved with politics and news. I thought we'd be able to go ahead and make it something like such, discussing about hot debates and whatnot, especially in the local area. Because at the time when I was living in, it was a small town with a whole bunch of city-wide political views, I guess you'd say. Yeah.
One of
So I figured
those kind of
go ahead.
communities.
Yes. Small town, city problems.
Red, white, black,
How
and
about-
blue.
Let's go ahead and experiment around in that, but unfortunately, politics was not exactly my forte.
Mhm.
Heck, I was even down over there for advisor to the mayor as well as treasurer, city treasurer for at least about 2 years before I'd say done. So that was the end of my career in politics. And then afterwards, with it, that's when I started delving into the furry community, and of course I already told you about that story after my high school years.
Oh yeah.
So here we are now.
Chose us and you're stuck with us. I mean, technically, you didn't pick me directly, but you did kind of keep me around, so.
Was it Seaward Skies in particular that got you?
Well, what it was is, and I'll be brief since this is not really meant for me directly, is that Seaward was having issues being constant on the show, and he was looking for a replacement, and he saw potential in me and invited me on. And we had a moment where we did like a show that kind of involved me being on the show, kind of as a guest speaker, and it just kind of, well, if you will, barrel rolled from there. I remember we was talking about like the Cars movie, and we did like, was it like Papa Bear website, I believe. You had like 4 topics selected, and I believe,
Yeah, that would be in the spotlight.
yes, I believe that's, yeah, I think it's still up on YouTube, and I haven't even gone back and looked at it. But granted, it's been, I don't even know how many years now. At least 10.
Give or take.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's pretty much where it is. Of the ones that are still in staff, I think, aside from myself, Firecracker is really the only one that was, like, hand selected before my time. I don't think. Yeah, like you said, Delta you had hand selected. Tiberius, I think, was a mix of me and Seaward Skies, possibly.
Yeah, I didn't have any involvement with Tiberius. Much of my recruitments in particular were either from Furry for Live or Cord's podcast, greatest furry podcast in the world, which of course is where Crystal, Trey, Adon, not Tiberius.
Yes. Oh yeah, Crystal.
But
I forgot about Crystal. Duh. Yeah, Crystal was here before I was. Pretty sure.
had to give it a little bit of thought, but yeah, I'm getting out to that point where it's all becoming a blur myself.
I believe Crystal was here before I was. Delta, yeah, I couldn't quite remember. I'm pretty sure you're right about Delta being on after I was. But Crystal, I believe, was actually part of the original Skype group.
Yeah, you're right.
And there
Because
Go ahead.
Because originally we actually started off on Skype, and I recall that's how Cord did his thing. And That's when I brought Tradon and Crystal aboard.
Yep.
So yeah, Crystal is the other one that's been around before you.
Yep. And Ryan, but Ryan's still stuck in the mines. You never let him out.
We do not speak of Ryan. Ryan is a... what do you call it? A memory, so we say, that we do not mention about.
Yeah. Didn't mean to do that. Alright. Alright, Luna finally gets a chance. Okay. Alright. Miss E. Luna has asked, what are your greatest fears? Is her words, but I think we need to probably go with what is one of your greatest fears? Either being a physical fear or a, work-related fear, fear of spiders, etc.
Well, one of the fears that I have is actually uncertainty, the great unknown, really. You may think that, in particular with death and whatnot, but no, not really. I guess living in the moment and not knowing. That's the best description I could go ahead and give, yeah.
Similar to as if you wonder if you have, any sliced cheese still in the fridge.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I figure I'd just do more like a simpler analogy of the situation. Because, you think about it, you wonder, you lay in bed and then suddenly you're like, wake up and like, do I have any sliced cheese left? Am I going to have to buy some? Do I have the money to buy that? And then you just kind of barrel roll from there. I better stop before my anxiety kicks in.
But yes, it's a good example. It's that uncertainty, and of course you overthink things, and of course you have this anxiety level going, and your mind being a mile a minute. That's one of my fears. Another one is, I wouldn't necessarily say dying in Whimper or Big Bang, but not having a legacy behind. But fortunately, I ironically do have a legacy that's being put behind. It's the Omega Republic.
I say, even if, we all were to pass tomorrow, I mean, I think there are other people that would be more than happy to take up what we left behind. And of course,
definitely.
Your name is definitely going to be carried upon in, the YouTube videos that we have. So I don't really see people, forgetting about you anytime soon.
Yeah, and that gives me solace, I guess you could say.
And of course, you mentioned earlier about not really being scared of death, so you really have, as far as the action of death itself, you don't really see that as a fear. You know it's coming, you know it's going to happen one day, but you don't really see it as something you need to sit here and worry about.
Yeah. It's not death itself, but the act of dying, really.
Right. I mean, we're all afraid of pain. None of us really like pain. And, the pain itself of dying, of how we're going to die, that's the one thing that I'm kind of afraid of. After I die, I don't care. I don't care. It's over and done with. But during the action of dying, that's what none of us really look forward to.
Yeah, one of the greatest memories that I actually have, and one of these quotes in particular, was actually from a movie called The Bride of Chucky.
Okay. Go ahead.
And of course, it was when Chucky was inside of this grave, and he was just yelling, screaming, and whatnot, trying to get out of there. And of course, one of the guys goes ahead and points the gun at him, and Turkey goes ahead and says, "Go ahead and shoot. I'll come back. I always come back." And then that deep sigh and pause. And he just says, "But dying is such a bitch."
Well put. And Cosmic's second and last question. Imagine you're on the run from Interpol. Where do you choose to hide and why?
Cosmic, why would I go ahead and give that information if I was trying to run away from something and hide? Well, tell you what. One of the few places that I would actually like to go ahead and be isolated from, and one of the few places that I would go ahead and have an option, I guess you could say, would actually be down over there in... Got the name of it. Well, I do know the name. Let's go ahead and look it up real quick. It's Canary Island. There you go. Canary Island is a place that is managed by the Spaniards in particular. Reason why I would go ahead and pick it as one of the many places is simply because 1, has good weather, 2, blends in with tourism, and 3, nobody expects you to be on Canary Island.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Well, I suppose that answers that question. Was it? I almost expected you to say Easter Island, but you know, because of all the big heads.
Boo! You stink!
Yeah, I hate myself for saying that. Alright, only 2 questions left. Oh, goody. I get mine for last. Okay. Now, this question had me scratching my head a little bit because of the way she worded it, but I'll see if you can decipher it. She asks you if you could list your best to worst wolf list that you keep bringing up.
I mean, the only thing that I go ahead and think about is my preference with wolves in particular.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Maybe it was during that time when I went ahead and demoted Firecracker from best wolf to second best after.
Oh, that's probably what she. Yeah.
Well, with that in particular, I gotta go ahead and say I love all wolves with equality in particular, but there are just some moments, like a child, you prefer one of the other. And it's not only on a day-to-day basis, it's on a day-to-day basis, should I say. So it's nothing indefinitely. I mean, one day, Firecracker may be second best. Maybe tomorrow, Rune may say something and gets her demoted and Firecracker back on to number 1. Which I highly doubt.
So this is more or less based on the wolves in the Omega Republic.
That's the only thing I'm guessing, at least.
Fair enough. Hopefully that satisfies her curiosity, but we'll see what she says later on. And of course...
Well, no.
Go ahead.
Well, the only thing I got to say about that, nobody really cares, simply because he's a lunar lover anyway.
I see. No. We're not getting into that right now. That's a whole nother discussion.
You know, I heard about it. It's just a fact.
Sun butt lover.
Luna Moon worshipping heretic.
But for now, we're focused on these questions. So, like all of these very intelligent questions, of course, which is leading up to my very, very intelligent question. Of course, Ark, I have to ask, and I'm curious what your opinion is of this. When is the butt too big?
When is the butt too big? I'd say the butt is too big when it's 2 hands full. Or 2 hands, there you go.
Are we talking like per cheek, or are we talking cheek in each hand?
I'd say per cheek. So if you...
Lightweight.
Well, I don't mind a thick butt in particular, but, one, I'm going to have to go ahead and ask you what inspired you to have such a question to ask me that, and 2, I gotta go ahead and say, yeah, 2 hands per cheek. I mean, if it's more cheek than you can handle per hand, then it's just too much.
Alright, I got you. Yeah,
So,
you don't want to be
what inspired you
overindulged.
to answer that question?
Well, I mean, for one thing, it's me. Come on. Think very carefully about that.
Uh-huh.
And 2, I mean, I gotta spice these things up somehow. All the other questions were a bit tame. I had to put something in there.
Uh-huh. Well, I know I'm going to be asking the next time you're on the hot seat.
Put a pin in that for now. Now, one thing that's different with this selection is, of course, you can't select Firecracker or Soul, but Cosmic is now back on the chopping block. That's right. After 3 guests, that person is now back on. Which means, of course, after the next one, Soul will now be back on the chopping block. Being, of course, the guest on the Staff Asks Staff. With a whole new batch of questions. So, Ark, including Cosmic, but not including Firecracker or Soul, who is next up for the Staff Asks Staff?
Well, I do know some individuals were suspecting that I would go with her in particular. And you know what? You'd be wrong! Actually, I would go with Seaward Skies. Not Seaward Skies. I said
He's not on the staff! Try again.
That is my dirt moment, and I will acknowledge it. I'm
leaving that in. I'm not editing that out. Just for the fact that if he is watching this at all, he'll get a laugh out of it.
Siren. There you go. Siren teacher, I get.
Alright. Siren would be interested to be in the spotlight, as it were. As they haven't had a chance to really share their voice yet.
Yeah, I like to put Siren in uncomfortable positions, I guess you can go ahead and say.
They need to spread their proverbial wings.
No, definitely. Mwah.
Well, Ark has made his choice for Siren to be our next guest on the Staff Asks Staff. Here next time on the Omega Republic. Once again, I am your host, Coppercap.
And I am the cute and lovable DJ of Ark.